Hello and welcome back, my copy poppers. It's been a while since I posted, but I'm still here. And I'm really excited today to share an interview with a returning guest. So, in a way, this is a part 2 episode with Jonathan Maki. So, we first met him back in episode 212 when we talked about book writing, Amazon bestselling book launching, and driving tanks with a small business tax pro, which is Jonathan Maki. And he is back now because he is coming live with a second book, a workbook only in paperback. And it will be out on December 2nd, which is Cyber Monday this year in 2024. We recorded it a couple weeks before, which will help you a little bit with keeping everything in context as you listen today. And in this episode, we dove deeper into Jonathan's current project. It's called My Family's Income Works for the Life We Want to Live, a workbook for life. And he co-authored it with his wife, Ayami Shireshi, and Jennifer LeCompte. So in this conversation, we talk a bit more about lessons learned from Jonathan's self-publishing journey this time around, tips for writing a workbook that truly engages readers, and how to coordinate things with co-authors, even if you're not all in the exact same location, how Jonathan honed in and decided on his core audience that he was going to write the book for, and advice for entrepreneurs, creators, or even kids who want to write books to grow their brand or grow their business and make a difference. As a quick heads up, we had a couple technical difficulties recording this episode, so we ended up doing it in 2 different parts. They're all presented together in this one episode, but if you notice any slight differences in audio or background, especially if you're watching it on YouTube, then we appreciate your understanding. And a last note before we jump in, if you want to grab a copy of Jonathan's workbook, you can visit copythatpops.com/income. I've created that redirect link to go to the Amazon page where you can grab it up. I'll also link it out in the show notes back at the website for this episode, which is copythatpops.com/228. All right, without further ado, let's jump into this great conversation, a part 2 with Jonathan Maki. Well, welcome back, Jonathan, to the show.
Thank you.
Yes.
Loving it. Yeah.
It's so exciting to have you back. So we first worked together on your first book, Audit Armor, and now you're coming out with a second book. Give everyone listening a bit of a background about you and this upcoming book.
Yeah. So as it relates to the book, I've helped support my family for the last 15 years running a business, and had a real bottom, with my wife. I think we were kind of doing a traditional, I don't know, at least in my mind, a traditional family model where I was going out and I was the primary breadwinner, and I was just, making money, but we weren't really discussing anything. And we hit a bottom, and ultimately what happened there was, we invited each other into like a full 100% partnership in our lives and in our finances as well. So we started opening up a conversation around that about how to make it work for both of us, based on what we wanted. We were just kind of flying blind up to that point of assuming that that's what the other person wanted, not really having a clear discussion on it. So from our bottom and our desperation, we kind of started having the conversation, and then I pulled together various tools, or invented tools, along with my wife, to make that happen. And ultimately, that's the essence of the book, in trying to dial in a reasonable life that works for your family as through discussion. So it's since expanded from just a conversation with my wife to now the kids are involved in it. So it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun.
I love that. I think that's so important. And so how did it go from tools that you both developed together and just played around with to putting it together in a format that other people could use?
Very interesting question. So what we originally designed was we wanted to do this as a workshop. So people would come into San Diego, business owners, particularly at that point of what we were looking at, business owners were coming to San Diego. We'd have a workshop. And so we were creating materials around a workshop. And then we found that the workshop was like exorbitantly difficult to
Mm.
pull off with getting a hotel and this and that and kid arrangements and all that. So we switched um, and decided to make it a workbook. And that's kind of how it happened. It wasn't planned.
Yeah.
It wasn't planned that way. There was no original inkling that there would be another book from it. But then it just came. It was like, why don't we just do that at a certain juncture? And then the development of it being just a tool that somebody would use in conjunction with an instructor in a seminar type setting, workshops type setting, to something that somebody could just read on their own.
Yeah. I love things that develop organically. I feel
Yeah,
like that's the best way. It's like you scratch your own itch and then it develops naturally in a logical way that you maybe couldn't have predicted if you just sat down to make it.
absolutely not. No, no, no. I wouldn't have envisioned that it would be. I had the idea of it, but an idea of it in a workshop setting,
Mhm.
but not as a book. And yeah, it just kind of happened. It's really kind of cool how that happens too. Like, I think if you're open to it and just, it doesn't have to be like, no, it's got to be this way. And I think there's a lot of flexibility and uncertainty in the writing process, as you know, probably better than anybody. And you just kind of have to see where it goes. And that's what we did. And it came out beautifully, I think.
So how did you involve Jen and have 3 co-authors in this project?
Sure. Yeah, so Jen was involved in the first book, mostly from an editorial perspective. We wanted her to look at the book, flesh things out, edit here, edit there. So she was more of an editor in that space. But on this one, because it's the where lifestyle and personal finance meet, I wanted to get some feedback from the lifestyle side. And she's a life coach. So I was like, boom, there we go. And so in this one, she was much more of a contributor and an author. So like the different wheels and different tools
Mm.
that she has from her background, we wove those in there. So it's like, the life that you want to live and personal finance just whoop, came together and there they are. So yeah, hopefully that answers what you were looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, and even just logistically, how did the 3 of you work together? Did you have a shared Google Doc? Did you get together in
Yeah.
person? Tell us more about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Great question. No, she's in Texas and we're both out in San Diego. So it was a Google Doc, and it was Zoom. We had weekly meetings. We put a meeting on the books for Friday, every week, and we went through it, and then we would divvy up during that meeting what we were going to do before the next one. So essentially, yeah, that's how it worked. So working remotely, I haven't seen her since, I don't know, 2005 in person. Yeah, so it was all remote and using Google Docs, um, Google Sheets, other collaborative tools. Yeah,
I love
yeah, yeah,
that. I love that technology brings us together. Even
yeah.
this, because I don't live right next door to you anymore.
Right, not anymore.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, so tell us a bit about how you drill down into your target audience, because that's a really hard thing for a lot of entrepreneurs, creators, is your Audit Armor book was more focused on business owners, specifically real estate investors, but this book is more broad because it wants to encapsulate the family. So tell us a bit about that journey to your audience development.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So it actually didn't start like that, believe it or not. I mean, there's lots of, changes that have happened along the way, like I said earlier. So originally, this was the scope, or the audience was business owners. And then after it had been developed, or through the development more towards the end of it, I thought, no, this is applicable for anybody who earns an income that supports themselves or a family with it to look at. So we expanded it. We removed language that only specified business owners, and then included everybody that is an income earner because we thought it would really be helpful for the whole of that rather than just the subsection of business owners.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Again, kind of like your own experience too. If you want to get everyone in the family actually involved, your kids, your spouse, maybe one person is a business owner, one person has a salary job, maybe one person stays home primarily with the kids. So like everyone's coming from a different, maybe income earnings situation, but the family as a whole needs to make it work for whatever
Yes.
everyone
Yeah.
wants. Yeah.
Yeah. Regardless if it's a business owner, somebody that works a job and gets a W-2, rental property, the family really needs to unite on the same page with, answering the question of, well, kind of what do we want
Mhm.
individually and then together, and then how do we make that happen in terms of how do you fund it, and that's really what the look is at. Yeah, and we just to elaborate on what you were saying about family involvement. So my wife and I developed the tools and then used the tools ourselves to have conversations. But then just here recently, like I said before the interview, we've included our kids in this now. Our kids can go through the workbook itself. It's they're 8 and 10 years old, but and some of the language in here they may not understand. They may not understand, like my wife said, orthodontics. They may not know what that word means. They may not know what disability insurance is, or even care about it. But they can go through the math themselves too. So, in other words, on the little lines that we have in here, um, my oldest was going through that. She was doing the math and she was adding it up to various expenses and income, and so it has become a tool for the whole family to converse and to get on the same page, and quite literally, with where we want to go. So yeah, I think it's been really good for that. It's been really good for them to explore what it is that they need and want and what the costs of that are. For them at their age right now, 8 and 10, and then hopefully is something that they continue to think about and is a formative tool as they continue to grow, to use it so that they are empowered and really can really direct what's going on, and they're not dependent on somebody else
Mhm.
either for the thinking about finances or the finances themselves. So ultimately that's my goal for them and for our family and for other families too. So
Yeah.
that's that's what jazzes me up.
Well, you're sharing that makes me think too. What have you noticed from your kids in just being an author, now two-time author? Have they said anything? Have they thought it was cool that you're on Amazon? Are they learning even just the empowerment that comes from just deciding to do something like this, like a big project?
Yeah. Yeah, they love it. They love it. They're like, yeah, dad's an author. Oh, look, it's on Amazon. Yes, they're totally excited about that whole thing. Um, I think it's influenced them personally in their own authoring. I mean, as part of school, they're doing some authoring stuff now, but I think in general, the two of them are creating thoughts and ideas and learning how to form those and learning how to write it, and ultimately I think that it gives them the what is the word that I'm looking for here? It kind of influences them to be authors of their own life, because like I said in the book, each one every person, um unless we're dead, we have 168 hours each week to decide how we're going to use that time, how we're really how we're going to author that time. How are we going to use that? What is it going to be used for? And so I think they're getting in more of a position where they see that they have choices around it, and they don't just have to, wake up and kind of punch the clock kind
Mhm.
of thing. Which I think is exceptionally true, or especially true, like in younger ages, and to a certain extent, you want that, just kind of, go with whatever, but it gives them a voice in in that space. And yeah, it helps them to kind of write what they want to do. So if
Love
that
that.
makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. What advice would you give to other entrepreneurs, other creators, or even heck, kids that might want to write their own book, having now done two? What advice might you
Yeah.
give to people?
I would say that the way to get over that daunting, overwhelming feeling is just Jen, going back to Jen, who wrote this book with us and helped on the first one. I was an accountability, or she was my accountability partner.
Mhm.
And she said, okay, you're going to write 10 to 15 minutes every day. Every day. It doesn't matter. You don't have to write. I don't want you to write 2 hours in one day and then nothing in the next day. 15 to 20 minutes every day. And I did that. She held me accountable to it. So I don't know. I mean, this whole notion of, oh, you just got to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, a lot of stuff that I learned in the Army, it's nonsense when it comes to this.
Mm.
What you need is a battle buddy. You need an accountability partner, somebody who's going to be there to say, you know what, you're not really feeling like doing this, and that's okay, but just keep going on it. So it was just somebody to check in with on the motivational side, because I think really a lot of people out there have great stories, great content to write, but on the motivational front, the imposter syndrome, like you and I have talked about a lot, um, it can squelch anything before it even starts.
Mm.
So, find somebody that would encourage you is what I would say. And then just get after it little by little in a tortoise rather than a hare kind of manner,
Mhm.
and just keep chipping it away. And then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, oh, there's been 40 pages written here.
Mhm.
Like after a month. That was what happened. Like literally after a month in the first book writing, the second one took longer, but the first one, there were like 50 pages already. And I'm like, what in the world? How did that happen? And I look back at it and I'm like, oh, and these are pretty good too. I was kind of like, I kind of got goosebumps myself reading through. I'm like, man, this is good stuff. So, you know, don't underestimate the message that can be put out is another thing.
Mhm.
Get a friend. Don't underestimate it. Keep chipping away. Try to stay motivated. Know that there's going to be the lulls, and that the total self doubt will kick in I mean, that's just a muscle you just got to exercise.
Mhm.
There's no other way around it. You just got to you know, go through the paces. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
Oh,
You know what I mean? You've been
yeah.
doing this forever. Yeah.
It's a good reminder for me to even hear, like we're always working on something. And anytime you go into something new, you kind of start hitting those little mental blocks. And this is just great advice. It's the same like for even exercising, which is a completely different domain. Instead of just working out hard for 2 hours and then sitting on your butt for 2 weeks, like what if you just commit to 15 minutes? Like every day I walk 15 minutes. Every day I do weights for 15 minutes, whatever it is, kind of small, and have an accountability buddy. That's how big progress
Really
can
adds
be
up.
built up.
It
Yeah.
really adds up. Yeah, it does. And that was the thing that hung me up, both from a writing perspective and then from other goals.
Mhm.
Just you're thinking that those small contributions were insignificant, when in fact those small contributions really are the substance of everything that makes it up. It That's how it happens. I think. I mean, that's not to say that I didn't have days where there was much more flow, because there was. I mean, there were days where I sat in 2 hours and because I was in that space. But I don't think that I could have done that had it not been for the daily discipline of just saying 15 to 20 minutes. And some of those days, by the way, the 15 to 20 minutes was just garbage. There was like nothing that came out of there, but I tried.
Mhm.
But I tried. So I think really the trying is where it counts, not in the trying to do in doing, rather than focusing on, oh, I got to make this a masterpiece. Like that kind of thinking to me is really self-defeating.
Mhm.
Don't try to make it a masterpiece. Just say it. And that's how I did it too. I just dumped, and then Ayami and Jen came in after I did the dumping, and they're like, oh well, put this here, put that there, put this, maybe we don't need this yet. And then they kind of helped flush it out. And that's the other thing I would say too, is that authoring does not have to, I think it's historically been, you just got to sit there at the desk, right, with your coffee or whatever it is, and it's just you and the material, rather than having a team approach. The team approach really helped me out personally to make it happen. And this book would not be here in my hands if that were not the case, if I did not submit to and really go all in on a team approach. Yeah.
Oh, fun. And if anyone's only listening to this on audio, we'll also embed the video in the show notes and on YouTube. And so, Jonathan, will you hold up the book while we're talking about this? Do you have the matte and the gloss version?
Oh, yes, I do. So now these are the first two author proofs. So there's changes since then. Here's the matte one. I'm not going to tell you which one is my favorite, but man, I do love the feel of how the matte feels. The gloss is kind of slippery and not, I don't know. I mean, and there's the whole like back and forth in social media now, because I put out a post by your encouragement,
I love
matte or gloss. And so, I mean, I kind of like the gloss, how that feels too. There's a little sheen on it, but either way, I don't know. I think we're gonna lean towards matte, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the audience says.
How many comments and engagements have you gotten from just that post? Or I know you maybe posted a couple spots.
I think with that one that I put up, I think there were like 50 comments, something like that.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, people can really dig into it. And their philosophies behind it too.
Yeah.
Like, so the people that are pro gloss are like, well, go into Target and look at the books on the shelf there and look at the gloss ones. They're going to pop out. So people that are pro gloss are like, oh, there's more pop on it. And then people that have said matte have said, I just like the way that it feels. It's just a simple, plain thing. So I had one of these copies and somebody in the office the other day, and he felt both of them. Felt it, right? And he's like, oh yeah, matte all the way. And so he's over there reading it and doing a little review. I let him borrow it. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of cool. The last book was gloss. I didn't even think about matte for the last one, but this one I've thought that because of its bare bonesness, like I just want this to be, no fluff, no, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's how I've done it in the past, is no frills, just right to the point. And I feel like the matte reflects that a little bit more. That's just my thought.
Well, I love bringing it up just because I think it's a great takeaway for people listening that, one, even before the book is live on Amazon, no one can find it or purchase it. You as the author are able to order a copy in the matte version and in the gloss version. So you can physically hold it in your hand, look at it side by side, get feedback, post on social media, get people asking, and voting and giving their feedback. And so it's great just logistically for you as the author, and Amazon allows this to happen, but also to start engaging the audience in a way that's not like, just go buy it because they can't even buy it yet. When you're sharing this leading up to it, they feel involved in the journey. So I just love that you did that.
Well, I love that you gave us the tip to do that, because I don't know, like you said before, authors, and it's true, like during the time of writing and editing and the making of the content, you kind of hole up. And I did. I had an injury earlier this year that I've been dealing with, but also doing this stuff, you just kind of hole up. And then, like you said before, you're like, all of a sudden you're like, hey, here I am, come buy my book. And everybody's like, where have you been? And what? And so, I mean, to have the tribe included in the process, and really not like in a superficial, oh, hey, I'm just going to, have them to do it to, stir up some engagement. But really, there have been suggestions that have been made in those posts that have changed the direction
Mhm.
in edits, that have changed the cover. So in particular, here's one of them. So look at this one here, and you can see how small that the drawing is on this one. And somebody mentioned that, actually I think it was you. And then on the second one, boom, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's just
So now,
draws you in more, I think, because it's taking up more of the real estate on the page.
yeah, less white and less white area. And who would have known that?
Mhm.
And things you don't even think of, you let the audience think of them for you.
Yeah.
The tough part, and if I can, for other listeners here, is that's not an easy process for me. And I suspect that it's not an easy process for a lot of authors, because you are like saying, hey, here's this. Now, what do you think? And it's like, what am I going to, what kind of feedback am I going to get? Are they going to cut it down? What are the people, who are not posting saying about this, right? The quiet observers. And I think the imposter syndrome and the mind games that we inevitably have, that can start whirling and spinning. But whatever, post it anyway, like you've encouraged me to do. By the way, yeah, that has been super uncomfortable for me to do. Um, and but that's how it goes, right? It's kind of like, you're in the gym, so to speak, and you just have to kind of get used to it. And the feedback that comes out of it is fantastic. That's been that case on both books.
That's so exciting.
The suggestions that have been made have changed the cover, which changed our logo. It changed some of the sayings that we've had. Yeah, and that's just the start. From there to other, granular, more editorial type stuff. It's cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the
And
people are going to
ultimately, you want
see.
the audience.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
And ultimately, the audience is who I want to have this in the hands of. These are the folks that I want to help, that we want to help make their family life better, and stay away from what can be, a real nightmare life. We talk about that. I talk about that briefly in the book, but you know,
Mhm.
without purposeful design, I think we're really subject to all of a sudden waking up one day and being like, man, this sucks. And I don't like this. And how do we get out of here? And you can feel there's a feeling of being trapped. There's a real depression. It's hard. And we had that. And we use this as a tool for the last 5 years, the content that went into it for the last 5 years of climbing like this,
Mhm.
bit by bit by bit, in the same manner that the book was written, bit by bit by bit, out of that space together. So, yeah, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
gonna just add how the audience who's giving you that feedback as you're sharing and asking for it is gonna see you making changes, and they're gonna feel, wow, I actually was a part of your journey, and that will lead to their being more likely to buy it, to share it, to talk about it. So it's just a win-win for everyone. So
Yeah.
I love that. I
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah. If I want to help them, then I should probably put the shoe on the other foot too,
Right.
and be helped by them. Is what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Not
that
so easy to
yeah,
do.
it's not easy for any of us. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's not. Yeah, you really feel like you're kind of in the doctor's office, and people are poking at you, and blow in this thing and take this temperature and all that. Yeah,
One of
but
those
it's worth every bit.
paper gowns
It's worth.
that's open in the back, and you're like,
Yeah,
ah.
I wasn't gonna. I thought of that, but
I hope no one
yes,
walks by
exactly.
that I know.
Right. You're feeling a little breezy in the back.
You're right.
Yeah, yeah. No, but it is through that exposure and that honesty. It's so hard to do, that really that immense growth happens. And without that honesty and exposure, you don't get it. You don't get it. And I know that because I've done both. Um, you know, if you hire a really good book coach, then she can help you do that. No, I'm seriously thanking you on that. Yeah, because I don't know. It's like, if you go and hire somebody to help you out with physical exercise, it's not going to be that comfortable at times, right? And you may not even like that other person. It's sometimes like, what are you doing putting me through this?
Oh no.
No, I'm not saying that about you.
Yeah.
I signed up for it, and I'm all good there, but it's not going to be that comfortable, and that's
Yeah.
just how it goes. And understanding that before getting into it, I think it's really an important backdrop. I think it's an important backdrop for people to have. It's not like anybody can write a book today, and a lot of people do, and it doesn't mean that it's going to stand out or it's going to um, be consumed. Uh, yeah, but kind of lost my train of thought there. But it takes that, whatever the case may be, it takes that a little bit of discomfort to go through it, um, to make the progress, I think.
Yeah, it's a life lesson. I think it applies to so many things. So the last question I wanted to make sure I asked you about was you're running a beta group, beta readers.
Yeah.
Tell everyone a bit about that process, what you've got out of it, what you hope to get out of it as it is officially live on Cyber Monday.
Yeah. So the beta group we did on Facebook, we just formed a group there that was going to be there for a short amount of time. I invited a lot of people. And that's the other thing about it, expectations versus reality. I'm like, oh, and I think I told you, oh, I'm going to get 200 people who are like all like on fire, engaged. I think there's 25 people that accepted it. Um, I haven't really known how to engage them, but you've helped out with that. So, again, it's that awkward thing of shooting a video, going through the book, telling them, life experience of how this came about, trying to solicit feedback. Again, I think it's that with the beta group, it is, if you don't feel like you can be fully vulnerable to just the public, you can within that little space and get feedback. And so we're in the process of doing that. They're reading the book now. Haven't gotten that much feedback on it yet, but I'm going to solicit more of that as the days tick by. Actually, I guess it's like 2 weeks away, isn't it?
Yeah, we're recording this on November 20th, although the episode will go live maybe I'm trying to decide maybe on the day of that the book is live on December 2nd. So we'll definitely have links to the book on Amazon so people can go back to the show notes or in their little podcast player and click the link and go check it out. But yeah, the beta group is still a work in progress, but I think that it can be such a great tool. And 25, I think, is a great number of people because you can give individualized attention and really follow up with them and make sure that they are getting something out of the book and you're getting that direct feedback from people. And then when the book is live, it's a great small set of people to follow up and say, please go leave an honest review on Amazon. That would mean a lot to me. And heck, I mean, if half of them did that, you're already in double digits with reviews on Amazon right from the beginning. So
Yeah,
I think that's great.
no, it's a great tip. And yeah, I think that they're going to be really helpful with the launch. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So exciting. Well, anything else I didn't ask about that you want to share or want to plug, or where can people connect with you if they want to learn more in addition to getting the book on Amazon?
Yeah. So buy the book on Amazon. That's and so we have that. It's just in print. So get the book, work through it, set up a routine. I think, like I said, 15 to 20 minutes to write it. If you do 15 to 20 minutes of it each day, because I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. To go through the exercises is a challenge. it's every bit of like push-ups and sit-ups of the financial personal finance. We have had that challenge ourselves. So yeah, and so our website is mfiworks.com. And if you're a business owner, it's auditarmor.com. So MFI Works speaks to a lot of the items that are in the book, and then Audit Armor is ultimately if you want to start a business, whether it be or if you have a business, uh, be a services or goods or real estate, that's perfect. So I kind of look at this book and our last book as like a 1-2 kind of punch thing. This book sets the overall parameters of, okay, well, how do we want to live this life? What do we need and what do we want? And then the Audit Armor is, okay, now we've got income coming in, and how do we protect that income, from an audit, from underpaying or overpaying in tax, one of those two.
Mm-hmm.
So they both go together in my opinion. So
is there going to be a third book?
I didn't think there was going to be a second. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll keep
to be continued.
I'll keep walking purposefully and see what arises, but probably. it's kind of addicting once you get started. It's like,
Right?
yeah. And then like seriously, once you have it in your hands and it's tangible in your hands, you're like, wow, that all the doubt that I had, all that frustration and what am I doing this for? I'm doing it for nothing. When you tangibly feel it in your hands, there is a big change that happens in that space. I don't know what it is, but motivation goes way up. Like self-belief goes way up. People saw it and they're like, wow, this is awesome. I showed it to somebody this morning and she's like, my husband would love that book. Where do I get it?
Oh,
and I'm like, really? I didn't think there would be that kind of a response before. You know what I mean? Like, I think but like my inner voice is only the critic. I'm only like, I'm not thinking of how, I want to help people in their personal finances and their personal finance life. But the only thing that really comes in my mind as I go through the process is the critic, not the one that's exclaiming their excitement like this woman did this morning for it. So it's kind of interesting like that, huh?
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
just put it out in the world and you just can't believe what unravels and comes together to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't let the self-doubt squash it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect words to end on. Well, thank you so much, Jonathan, for being a 2-time guest. And we can't wait to see you for a 3rd time. Once you get another book in the works, let me know.
I'll be back. Thank you so much for your help, Laura.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.
Well, that was our conversation for today. I'm so glad that you stuck with us and joined us for this part 2 with Jonathan Maki. Just a couple of quick reminders on where you can go to learn more. So the show notes for this episode are at copythatpops.com/228. If you want to check out our first conversation with Jonathan, that's copythatpops.com/212. And if you want to grab Jonathan's workbook, My Family's Income Works for the Life That We Want to Live, a workbook for life, then you can go to copythatpops.com/income. I hope this episode finds you well wherever you are in the world and at whatever time you're listening. And until next time, keep on finding ways to write copy that pops.